So, life alchemy and resilience. What has resilience got to do with life alchemy? Well, it is a completely automatic and natural outcome from understanding we're living in a self-creating experience, that moment to moment, all we can ever be experiencing is what is being created internally. And that is so liberating, because what we get to do is we get to see that what we're experiencing is moment to moment, and that's all that there is. So, and we might be wrong about lots of things because we're the ones creating it. So imagine you can see that what you're experiencing is purely internally created, based on all of the things that you think, all of the definitions you've made up in your life of all of the things. And then imagine a challenge comes along. The beauty of it is that whilst we can connect to all of these thoughts that make the challenge a bad thing, something that we don't prefer in our lives, what we get to access also is the potential that that challenge, that situation that has come up, is that we don't really know whether it's a good or bad situation. We can have an idea, that that's not something that we want, but really when we connect to the possibility that we don't know whether it's good or bad for us in the bigger scheme of things, it settles us down. It settles us down and it allows us to respond to the situation with some ease. There's a really good Chinese farmer story about the getting an extra horse and then losing a horse, then his son breaking his leg and then not having to go into the army. And it's beautiful, and you can find it online, and it's really just it's a cute story about how we cannot predict if something that occurs for us is long-term good or long-term bad, because we just don't know. So when we get in touch with that level of fallibility, when we get in touch with that level of not really knowing, we can respond with more peace. We can respond to what actually is, rather than responding to what is as if all of this stuff's a given. I'm sure you can think of examples of this where the emotional response that we have to something is so often based on what we think that thing means for us versus what the thing actually is. An example in my life is that I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone, but for me, having cancer was a very, very liberating thing. It allowed me to see what I was creating for myself and then create something different that I preferred. And so that to me was like a beautiful liberation. It was an affirmation of who I am. It was a liberation of who I am in the world. It was me feeling empowered to create what I want. Now, did I think that would be the outcome of having cancer? No. Would I have preferred not to get cancer? Yes. Would I have preferred not to go through all of that? Of course, but the challenge that it looked like at the time was full of gifts. And one of those is that now I am perfectly able to hold space for people that are in those situations that are very difficult, because I know that we don't know if they're good or bad. There is not really any good or bad. So that's why resilience and the ability to respond to things just comes naturally out of seeing that we're living in a moment-to-moment creation, because we see the fallibility of it, and we see that we don't have to take it so seriously that looks really scary. You can still I'm not suggesting to kid yourself out of finding things scary. Like, shit's scary sometimes, shit's sad sometimes, but it's allowing that emotional response, but also seeing that the truth of the situation is neutral. Every situation is just a situation, and then we get to add meaning to it, which is the beauty of being a human being. Hell, I like adding meaning. We add meaning to things on purpose. To think, rituals are, like Christmas and family traditions. We love adding meaning to stuff, and it's beautiful to do that. But when we see that we're doing it, it's totally liberating, and it allows us to face things that would be our worst nightmares as a day-to-day thing. This is what's happening right now. And trust me, I've been through lots of stuff with cancer that actually in the moment, it was just an appointment. It was just a conversation with the doctor. The emotional response, the fear response is all this invention. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's really, really helpful to know that it's an invention. It's really, really helpful to know that it isn't a given just because you can imagine it. So resilience, completely natural outcome. The ability to respond to stuff, because we're not seeing it as bigger than it is. We're literally just there in the appointment having the conversation. And then the ability to suffer less, because we can see that we're the ones adding the meaning to it. We're the ones that are creating the narrative of impending doom. It's not actually real until it's real. So that's the relationship between life alchemy and resilience. I hope that's helpful. I'd love to hear your stories of resilience, or how you can see this might be true for you. Thank you for watching, and yeah, give me a shout and do the things if you want to do the things, the subscribe thing. Yeah, thanks again.